لبنان معنية بهذه الهدنة وتشملها، وكذلك ربما الحوثيين أيضا في اليمن. السؤال الثاني، من خلال خبراتكم هل لمستم رغبة لدى الطرفين في الوصول إلى هدنة دائمة ووقف شامل لإطلاق النار؟
بالنسبة لامتداد هذه الهدنة فهو يغطي فقط قطاع غزة. هذا الاتفاق يغطي قطاع غزة ويغطي وساطتنا المباشرة مع شركائنا بين غزة أي حماس والاحتلال الإسرائيلي. فنحن لا نتحدث هنا عن يعني في أطرافه، نحن نتحدث تحديدا عن الوضع في غزة الذي تقوده حماس، ولكن يشمل الجميع في غزة بلا شك، وفيما يقابل ذلك طبعا الاحتلال الإسرائيلي أو إسرائيل. هل هناك رغبة لدى الطرفين؟ ما لمسناه حقيقة أن هناك درجة التزام عالية بهذا الاتفاق وببنود هذا الاتفاق. أعتقد أن من المبكر اليوم الحديث عن ما بعده. هدفنا كان من الوصول إلى هذا الاتفاق، الهدف الرئيسي طبعا كان هو أن يكون هو دافعا لمزيد من الهدن، وبالتالي يقود إلى إنهاء حالة الحرب هذه التي يعاني منها الجميع، والتي يجب حقيقة أن تصل إلى نهاية في أقرب الآجال، ولا يمكن ذلك إلا من خلال هذا البناء على الاتفاقات التي تتم.
صابر أيوب، تلفزيون العربي مرة أخرى. ربما من السهل تطبيق هذه الهدنة في جنوب غزة، حيث حظر الطيران وعدم إطلاق صواريخ ربما يكفي، لكن في شمال غزة حيث يوجد توغل إسرائيلي للدبابات والآليات والقناصة أيضا، هل هنالك جرى الحديث عن تثبيت كلا الطرفين، سواء من المقاومة المتواجدة بين أنقاض شمال غزة والآليات الإسرائيلية والقناصة، هل جرى تثبيت حدود كل من الجانبين، أم أن هنالك ربما حرية للتنقل وكما هو معروف يمكن أن يؤدي إلى خرق الهدنة؟ السؤال الثاني هو حول طلعات التجسس التي تقوم بها الطائرات الإسرائيلية، هل أيضا هي محظورة خلال مدة هذه الأربعة أيام؟
بالنسبة للوضع في شمال غزة، صابر لا يمكن الحديث عن التحركات العسكرية على الأرض. كما تعلم هذه أمور مرتبطة بالوضع الميداني وبحساسيات الوضع الميداني، ولكن ما يمكن التأكيد عليه إجابة على السؤالين تفضلت بهم أن هناك اتفاق على وقف كامل وشامل لإطلاق النار خلال هذه الفترة. بالنسبة لمهام الاستطلاع المرتبطة بوجود القوات الإسرائيلية على الأرض، فهناك اتفاق على أوقات معينة لا يكون في هذا الاستطلاع موجودا، لكن الاتفاق هو على وقف إطلاق النار بشكل كامل في قطاع غزة. Callum?
Hi, Callum Payton from AFP. In the process of making sure that the deal was, that the logistics were and the schematics as you described them were completely in place for things to go forward today, did you feel that things were put in place for, as this scheme continues in the way that it's been laid out, for more releases over the following days? Are you still confident that that will be able to happen?
We are hopeful. I don't know if I should say confident, but we are very hopeful. And as I said, the commitment we have seen from both sides leads us to be very positive, to deal with this very positively. We are seeing a good level of commitment over the agreement itself. The details hashed out in the executive plan of this agreement are very sound and very robust. And we are hoping that these 4 days would work as a proof of concept for further de-escalation measures, including extending this humanitarian pause, but also getting to a more sustainable truce in Gaza. Of course, I have to remind everybody, and I'm sure that all of you know this, in covering other conflicts around the world, these are not set in stone. They are not completely guaranteed. Anything can happen on the ground. But we are confident that with the signatories of the agreement and the international and regional partners who are working with us on this, that everybody is highly committed for the success of this humanitarian pause, and it actually constitutes the first glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel of this crisis, and this is why we needed to succeed, and we are hoping and working towards it succeeding. The operation room run from here in Doha. The main purpose of having this operation room is to make sure that information is relayed in real time, and that any issue that comes up can be dealt with immediately and not allow it to escalate and in a way that will.
All right, that was the Qatari Foreign Minister's spokesperson confirming that the Gaza's temporary ceasefire and hostage release will start from 7 a.m. local time tomorrow, that is Friday, while adding that the ceasefire, then 13 hostages will also be released at around 4 p.m. and this will happen every day, and the hostages will be handed over through the Red Cross. Now, Al-Ansari also discussed that at this moment he cannot disclose information about the routes by which the captives will be taken out of Gaza, because he stated that there are security concerns at the moment. Now, for those of you who are just joining in, this is some breaking news coming in. Qatar has confirmed formally that starting at 7 a.m. tomorrow, local time in Gaza, a temporary truce has been reached between Israel and Hamas, and also this will spark the transfer of the hostages held by Hamas. Now we move on with our election special, and we're beginning with the race to power in Netherlands, which has sent shockwaves across the world. The Dutch have cast their ballot, and an exit poll predicts that a substantial majority has voted in favor of far-right populist leader Geert Wilder. But why are nations shocked at the mandate? And is this election outcome a sign of winds changing direction in Europe? That's the question we are dealing with today. Now, as per the exit poll, Wilder's Freedom Party has carved out 35 out of 150 seats, giving the right-wing populist leader a majority among all his competitors.
I'm in politics for 25 years now, and this is the happiest day of my life so far in politics. We became the #1 party by far. I mean, it's what a lot of people, if you would have asked them a year ago, would call you mad, and it happened today. So I'm very proud, I'm very happy, and it brings along a lot of feeling of responsibility.
The anti-Islam leader, whose campaign has centered around migration and asylum policies, is positioned to form the next ruling coalition and become the next prime minister. Now, Wilders has been called the Dutch Donald Trump for his unconventional behavior. He has had death threats from Islamic extremists, as well as a conviction for insulting Moroccans. Britain once banned him from entering the country.
It's an earthquake. You can call it an earthquake. Nobody expected this result. PVV, which more or less is a radical populist outlier in Dutch politics, becoming the biggest party, Prime Minister's party perhaps even. That was really not expected by anyone. Not even by Geert Wilders, the potential Prime Minister himself.
What also emerged as a surprise this election was the new centrist party, the NSC, winning 20 seats, making veteran politician Peter Omtzigt a considerable player in coalition talks.
I'm ecstatic. The fact that we got 20 seats out of nothing, we didn't exist three months ago, means that there is a high trust of the Dutch population in our plans for better government, plans for to tackle the cost of living crisis which you have in the Netherlands, and to finally set some cap on migration. So it means a heavy responsibility, especially since we have a fairly complicated election result.
After 13 years of having a centre-right in power, the Dutch have ditched the moderate for an extreme right leader to take the reins.
I think it's good. Yeah. The Netherlands need a change in everything they had not done last 14 years. So Rutte, bye-bye. Welcome, Geert Wilders.
The mandate has created a stir and caused many to question if the outcome in Netherlands is an indication of where things are headed for European nations.
Hartstikke belangrijk, hebben we nodig. Hallo. Geweldig.
Now the timing of the growing right-leaning sentiment in Europe is more worrying for one key reason: the looming elections for European Parliament slated to be held in June next year. Let's talk about why the European Parliament is pivotal for the EU bloc. European Parliament is the world's one and only directly elected transnational assembly. 705 elected representatives from 27 member states constitute the European Parliament. Now, the members directly represent the interests of EU citizens at the European level. The Netherlands is an EU member since 1958, which means that the country's leaders represent the government and citizens' interest at the EU Parliament. Should Geert Wilder form the government and become Prime Minister, here's what his key policies will be. 1. Outlaw mosques, Islamic schools and the Quran. 2. Come down hard on migrants seeking refuge or asylum in Netherlands. The far-right leader's policies and radical outlooks have analysts worried that the right-leaning wave will make its way to other countries in Europe as well. And with the EU Parliament election months away, the bloc, in all probability, will see growing right-leaning voices leading the policy decisions for the European Union. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Ambassador Volker Stanzel. He is the former German ambassador to China and Japan. Ambassador, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you.
Do you think this election result has shocked the people of Netherlands?
Yes, except for those who voted for Mr. Wilders, right? And the same is true for the rest of Europe. You spoke about shockwave going around the globe. Well, most of all shocked are the Europeans themselves, because they did not expect this kind of outcome, even though we have this drift towards the right in many European countries, including my own, Germany, that you mentioned. But this enormous success of Mr. Wilders has a root cause which is not directly linked to this general tendency in Europe. The direct root cause is, of course, 7th of October. That's Hamas attack on Israel. And Wilders has been a person, you spoke about it, who has been very outspoken in opposing having migrants of Islamic belief in the Netherlands. And yes, in the past, he has asked to outlaw Islamic schools and even to forbid the Quran. Now, he has drawn back from these positions during the election campaign. So people spoke about Geert Wilders instead of Geert Wilders, as his actual name is. Still, people are shocked by what happened in Israel, and it seems to confirm many of the misgivings represented by Mr. Wilders in the past about Islamic immigrants. And this, what we see now, is the outcome of that.
Right. Ambassador, how do you think should the 5% of Muslim population in Netherlands see this win?
Well, they have to see it against the broad picture, which means that we have movements against even more migration from Middle East countries and from African countries into Europe in many EU member countries. So this is, as I said, a general drift. And the number of Islamic migrants in our countries, in my own country it's about 4%, is something that connects in the people's perception to the fear of their own economic livelihood. So they fear too many people moving into our countries, taking away our jobs. That is an economically based fear. But now it connects to this fear of Islam as a religion that brings into the world terrorist organizations who do deeds like the one we had on 7th of October. And this is something that worries people. In turn...
Sir, but many would actually argue that we cannot be comparing the religion as a whole to what Hamas did, because it does not simply represent...
Yes.
But thank you so much for speaking with us, Ambassador, and joining us here on this broadcast.
Yeah, well, I respect what you've been saying, but in people's minds, of course, there is this relationship, and it does us damage if we overlook it.
All right, Ambassador. It looks like the race to power in US presidential election is thinning down. Trouble is brewing in the Republican camp of candidate Ron DeSantis, as he suffers a big blow to his campaign leadership. In the latest development, the Florida governor has lost his biggest private backer for the presidential campaign. Chris Jankowski was the chief executive for the DeSantis camp's Never Back Down Political Action Committee. And now, in a major setback for Ron DeSantis, his campaign leader has stepped down. Internal disputes among supporters of the Republican candidate. If reports and murmurs from within the camp are to be believed, DeSantis supporters have been disagreeing over strategy, financing, and how to neutralize the growing momentum of a key rival. That's Nikki Haley. It is no secret that the DeSantis camp has been pulling out all stops to not just one-up Nikki Haley, but also give a tough competition to Republican frontrunner Donald Trump. However, voices from the campaign say that the Florida governor micromanages strategy, and that has revealed a pattern of why Ron DeSantis cycles through different teams. However, there might still be light at the end of the tunnel for DeSantis. In the backdrop of all the infighting over targeting Nikki Haley, a new outside group called Fight Right was recently created by 3 Florida allies in support of the Florida governor. While the road ahead for the presidential hopeful remains a tough one, DeSantis may have just managed to overcome his latest adversity. But the question is, will it make a dent in his popularity and image as a presidential candidate?
私はまだ候補者じゃありませんので、そのステータスが日本、韓国、それからまたイスラエルの75
Now, India is in the middle of its election season. 5 states are holding polls this year, and this comes just months before the big general election. Rajasthan particularly is being seen as the litmus test for next year's election. It was the last day of campaigning, and leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Indian National Congress made their final pitch.
जिस प्रकार से कैंपेन चल रहा है राजस्थान में, धावा बोल दिया गया है बीजेपी ने, क्योंकि सरकार गिरा नहीं पाए। मध्य प्रदेश, महाराष्ट्र, कर्नाटक हॉर्स ट्रेडिंग करके सरकार गिराई गई। यहाँ वो फेल हो गए। वो जो फेल हो गए हैं, उसकी टीस जो है, उनका दुख और उनकी जो झटका लगा है, झटका वो इतना भारी है पड़ रहा है उनके लिए कि बार बार वो जो दुख दे रहा उनको।
राजस्थान की महिलाएं अब कांग्रेस सरकार को एक पल के लिए भी बर्दाश्त करने को तैयार नहीं है। राजस्थान ने आज तक इससे बड़ी महिला विरोधी सरकार नहीं देखी है।
Now, I just wrapped up a tour of the state of Rajasthan, and I can assure you that the election fever is extremely high, especially among the youth. They might not indulge in day-to-day politics, but when it comes to their concerns, the BJP and the Congress have no choice but to listen. India is known for its power of the youth. The youngsters here not only address the issues of the past, but also talk about the solutions of the future. And Rajasthan is no different. About 25% of Rajasthan's population is the youth. So to understand how Rajasthan will shape tomorrow, let's go and speak to the youngsters and understand what they're expecting from the next government. While education is a fundamental right on paper, the issue of quality is often overlooked. We visited 4 different government colleges of Rajasthan. Teachers were absent, the students seemed clueless, and one college had broken walls in the middle of barren forest lands.
कि एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में जो बदलाव हुए हैं वो और अच्छे से हो, जो हो रहे हैं जैसे टीचर्स अवेलेबल नहीं होते टाइम पे, मतलब वो हो.
Paper leak is another big issue in this election. All politicians have mentioned it at least once in their speeches. The BJP and Congress have also squeezed it in their manifestos. With 14 examination papers leaked in the last 4 years, the youth are furious.
पेपर लीक देखा जाए तो बहुत हुए. अभी लास्ट टाइम में जितने भी पेपर्स हुए सारे लीक हुए थे. सो बस ये है कि जो भी गवर्नमेंट आए एक माइंडसेट हो उनका अच्छा कि जो भी वो काम करे वो सक्सेस रहे. पेपर लीक्स ना हो, लोगों का फ्यूचर है वो.
According to the latest data, 1.8 million people are currently unemployed in Rajasthan. 1.4 million of them are graduates and 100,000 are postgraduates. So higher education is not getting them jobs. Even for someone like Anjali Lohar, who has been the captain of Rajasthan's hockey team.
कोई सरकार ऐसे सपोर्ट नहीं करता किसी को भी, बल्कि हमको तो करना चाहिए. इतने छोटे समाज से अपने समाज का नाम रोशन करना चाहते हैं.
Rajasthan is the only Indian state to have a Right to Health Act. But on the ground, lack of infrastructure and poor education have turned it into a failure.
एज अ डॉक्टर एंड अ यंग वोटर एक्चुअली सबसे पहले तो हेल्थ केयर फैसिलिटीज को थोड़ा इंप्रूव किया जाना चाहिए. हमारा जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है वो डेवलप हो रहा है, बट और जो जयपुर तो ठीक है, बाकी जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैं, बाकी जो छोटे गाँव हैं वहाँ पे इतना अच्छे से डेवलप नहीं है.
To all the women we spoke to, safety remained a running concern. Eve teasing has become a part of their daily lives. Both the BJP and Congress have showcased safety concerns as their top priority. But the big question is, will change follow?
कुछ लोग होते हैं जो गलत तरीके से टच करते हैं, है ना, मतलब भीड़ भड़ाके में बस के अंदर करते हैं वो टच, फिर वो बोलते हैं नहीं मेरा ऐसा इंटेंशन नहीं था, या फिर वो घूर घूर के देखते हैं, है ना. लड़के होते हैं बस स्टैंड पे खड़े हो आप, तो आप अकेले खड़े हो तो वो आपको देख के गाना गाते गाते जाएंगे, फिर वो वापस घूम के आएंगे.
I'm Ananya Datta with video journalist Alka Sahu reporting for WION World is One. Now, Russia has accused US envoy to Bangladesh, Peter Haas, of aiding anti-government rallies and interfering in the upcoming general election. Bangladeshi media reports claim that Peter Haas was trying to broker deals between political parties in Bangladesh. Now, addressing a news briefing in Moscow, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson has said, and I'm quoting here, at the end of October, US Ambassador to Bangladesh, Peter Haas, met with a member of the local opposition to discuss plans for organizing anti-government rallies. Such actions amount to nothing less than gross interference in internal affairs. Russia and China have warned the US against interfering in Bangladesh's political process. The general election will be held on January 7th amid the opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party's call to boycott the election. Now, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has also warned BNP and Jamaat of dire consequences if they try to derail the upcoming poll. Prime Minister Hasina's warning came during the ruling party Awami League's Parliamentary Nomination Board meeting. She said that the Awami League wants democracy to prevail in the country and the political parties to continue their activities freely. She added that the BNP-Jamaat alliance had tried to malign the 2018 elections but failed to produce evidence of irregularities to support their claim. That's all we have for you in this edition of Race to Power. I'm Ananya Datta signing off.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you.
Israel woke up to a barrage of thousands of rockets fired from the Gaza Strip.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה. hostilities have broken out between Israel and Palestine, and the tensions that had been gathering steam over the course of the last several weeks and months.
The siren has gone off. I don't know if you can hear in the background what's going on. I'm going into the shelter now. So it's a very, very serious situation here across Israel. It's a state of emergency.
The United States stands with Israel.
Well, we are starting this broadcast with a developing story from West Asia, where Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says Hamas has launched a war against the state of Israel.
It's easy to tell you a flat story. It's easy to show you what's happening around the world. We do the difficult part.
This weapon has been banned, but the US